Any influencer who thinks that they can help you grow your show, who says that your show should be any particular length, they're either flat out lying to you or they're wrong. Don't listen to them. They're not worth your time.
Your podcast should be your most powerful business development tool, a trust and authority builder, and your content creation engine. Let's help your podcast help your business with the Story Trust Media Podcast. Here's your host, John Gehring.
I've watched all the videos too, and I've listened to a lot of the podcasts and read a lot of the blogs. And here is the shocking truth. Most podcast advice out there is wrong. Three things in particular that I want to focus on today. The things that you're probably listening to and watching to help you grow your podcast, but they're actually steering you in the wrong direction. It's outdated advice. It's not actually working for you. Number one, the length myth. How many blogs and articles do you see or YouTube videos that claim that there's a certain podcast length that is ideal? They do research on this all the time. The ideal podcast episode length is 39 and a half minutes. And you go, oh gosh, okay, now I got to make mine 39 and a half minutes because you're trying to optimize for everything. And that's natural, right? And it's okay to be trying to do everything right as a podcaster. Problem is, it's not actually moving your show forward at all. In fact, focusing on length at all is likely holding you back. If you need to stretch out your podcast content to reach a certain amount of time, you're eroding trust with your audience because you're taking too long to say things. And basically what you're communicating is your time doesn't matter to me. That's not what I'm meaning to do. No, it's not what you're meaning to do, but it's what you're unintentionally communicating when you're stretching out your podcast to fit the 39 and a half minute marker or whatever the case is. Or maybe you have the opposite problem and you're very long-winded and you're trying to cut everything down. And so you just start rambling and speaking really fast because I got to make sure that my podcast episode is only 20 minutes because any longer than that, and this influencer said it's too long. Now you're also hurting the quality of your podcast too. I love this. The way that it's said by a podcast influencer that I follow. He says that your podcast length, it should really just be as long as it needs to be. And nobody's happy about that because everybody's like, oh, tell me, like that doesn't tell me anything. It actually tells you everything. It should be as long as it needs to be. Depending on your show, depending on your niche, depending on whether it's a guest or a solo. There's so many factors at play that you cannot simply say that a podcast needs to be a certain length. So any influencer who thinks that they can help you grow your show, who says that your show should be any particular length, they're either flat out lying to you or they're wrong. Don't listen to them. They're not worth your time. So that's myth number one. All the podcasting advice out there, I can't believe how much of it is garbage. And telling you how long your show should be is absolute garbage. The second piece of garbage is telling you that you need to have a guest on every single one of your shows. Not true. Solo episodes are gaining a lot of steam, and I think there's a reason for that. Here I am, right, talking with you one-on-one for 8 to 10 minutes. And that's breaking a lot of the podcast rules out there. Let's say that podcasts should be a half hour to an hour, and they should also always feature a conversation between two people. Why? Why? Because traditionally speaking, that's what podcast content has been. And that's worked in the past. John, some of the most successful podcasters do that. Yes. That's how they've chosen to make their show work, and it works for them. It doesn't have to work for you. In fact, pigeonholing someone into finding a weekly guest is often going to backfire. Because when you are forcing yourself to finding a guest every week, you end up bringing on some guests that probably aren't delivering the kind of value that you know they should. And that backfires. So be careful with that advice. I'm all for shows with guests, and having guests on is a really powerful way to build your network. Bring somebody on who can speak to a specific problem your audience is facing, which helps to build your authority and trust by extension. But it isn't something that should ever be forced. You don't always need a guest. It doesn't always need to be 30 minutes to an hour long. Those are two pieces of advice that I think are total garbage. And finally, the third piece of podcasting crap out there is this idea of sponsorships. Of course, I want you to monetize your podcast if you want to. Of course, I want you to get sponsored content in there because, John, all the top podcasters do. That's how they make money. In fact, I want to start a podcast that replaces my full time income because I'm just selling ads and reading live reads and promoting products. And I'm a podcast influencer, right? Like Joe Rogan. That's one approach. But the more realistic way for your podcast to contribute to your success professionally is actually not through sponsored content at all. And this is where all the content online gets it wrong. People say that, oh, I'm going to help you get your podcast sponsored and making money within 3 months. Usually bogus. How can you make money with a podcast, though, in 3 months? The better way is to build real relationships, use it as a content creation engine for your brand, and build trust with your audience by delivering value that they showed up for. And by extension, they want to work with you. They're more likely to refer you. They trust you. No sponsored content needed. No nickeling and diming your way to podcasting success by charging sponsors a certain fraction of a penny per play. Now you have 1,000 plays and you get $10 at the end of the week. Okay, your podcast is monetized, but is it bringing you value? That's the question. Bringing you value beyond a package of cold cuts at the grocery store. Now, I'm talking about real business value and relationships, which are the gift that keep giving, right? You can never put a monetary value on a relationship. It's very hard to put one anyway on a business relationship. You don't know how that's going to impact your business moving forward. And it all happens through the power of podcasting. Can sponsorships even backfire? Absolutely. I'm not saying not to have your podcast sponsored. I'm not saying that. It certainly isn't the end all be all. It isn't something that necessarily harms your podcast, especially if your sponsor is in the same niche as your audience and your sponsor actually ends up delivering value to your audience. That's even better, right? But if you're just taking on any old sponsor because you want your podcast monetized, it could actually be eroding your podcast audience's trust. Because now all of a sudden, in the middle of you talking about something important that is relevant to them, now all of a sudden they hear about how, they can get zero down financing for their next vehicle. Nobody wants to hear that. What they want to hear is the insights and the value that you're providing. And they want to hear insights that will help them solve problems that they're coming to your show with. And it doesn't happen through sponsored content typically. It can, and that can be a way for you to make money, sure. But the better way is to actually build trust and grow an audience and stay in touch with your guests, build your network through podcasting and create content so that you show up online everywhere. That's the power of podcasting done right. So don't fall into the trap of those 3 myths. The amazing thing is, like a lot of content online, most of the podcasting content online is garbage. Most of the stuff that talks about growing your show is utter crap. So don't listen to those YouTube videos or those blog posts that say your show needs to be this specific length because this is shown to be ideal. It's garbage. Don't listen to that content out there that says that you need to have a guest on weekly because that's, how the most successful podcasters are. It works for them. Doesn't mean it's going to necessarily work for you. If you force it, it'll backfire. And certainly don't listen to the advice that the best way for your podcast to provide value to you is through monetization. Because it's not. I'm living proof of that. I hope today helped you. And I hope you're now careful, a little bit more careful when you're watching those YouTube videos that make these audacious claims. And know that a lot of that out there is just pure lies. Any other podcasting lies that you've come across lately? I would love to hear them. you can always email me at john@jonathangaring.com or DM me up on LinkedIn. Love to have a conversation with you.
Thanks for checking out the Story Trust Media podcast. Learn more about what Story Trust Media can do for your business and book a free consultation at storytrust.media.